as we predicted, so if anyone's been listening for the last few years, we've got a bit of a bone to pick on constellations and stuff, and we're not the only ones now. It's going up to parliamentary level, and it's being discussed at very, very high levels because, once the US military got involved, which they now have, the US Department of Defense are getting really, really concerned about this and are now throwing money at commercial operators to see what they can do about the space debris issue. And the DoD are looking at lasers, they're looking at all sorts of different things. And then you had last year, late last year, that we had the Russian ASAT test, which put tons more debris into orbit. And just before this announcement that we're about to talk about, China announced that one of their satellites had been knocked out by some debris. And we've had multiple EVAs on the International Space Station cancelled. We've had it's now the last month, I believe, over 70,000 CAMs, collision avoidance maneuvers, happened in the space of 1 month. And China complaining to United Nations and various other bodies, anyone that would listen, about Starlink. And the irony of that is that they then go and announce their own version of Starlink, because obviously we've been predicting for quite some time, and it's open secret really, but working as I do in the defense sector, this is a big concern for the defense sector. We have China now saying that they're going to put up a mega constellation of approximately 13,000 satellites. Now, Elon Musk's Starlink is in that same kind of ballpark. And from what I've seen with the Federal Communications Commission and the Federal Aviation Authority and the kind of Western US-based and European-based legitimate filings for satellite launches, there's upwards of 80,000 satellites now being proposed to be put into low Earth and medium Earth orbits. Now, it can't sustain that. It's Elon Musk was saying, oh, space can handle billions of satellites, and then Professor Hugh Lewis at University of Southampton and various other people did some calculations and proved it was complete lies, and it can't. And the problem is that you could have the best artificial intelligence and CAM systems, collision avoidance systems, known to humanity, but the fact remains that there's still 100+ million pieces of debris, ranging from the size of a grain of sand up to the size of EnviSat, which is a European Space Agency satellite that's drifting around aimlessly at the moment because it's dead, and that's the size of a school bus, a US school bus. So all of these things moving at 17,500 miles an hour, around about 8 kilometers a second. Impact velocity on any one of these could wipe out a satellite. Impact velocity on something the size of a grain of sand could kill an astronaut. And this is becoming more and more of a problem. And now China have announced that they're going to put their own mega constellation. And the bizarre thing is some of the operations for this are coming out of Wuhan. And we all know how wonderful the science coming out of Wuhan has been for the last 2 years. Let's not even go there. It's... I just beggars belief. The fact that you've got the astronomy community up in arms about this because of the inherent impact it's having on ground-based observations, not just in the optical spectrum, but in the radio spectrum and everything else. Now you've got China, which are going to be using various frequency bands, Ka band, etc., and the regulatory oversight that we get out of China is, let's forget it. I mean, they won't even admit what they're doing in, Xinjiang province. So trying to get them to comply with international regulations, it's going to be amusing. We don't even know what Russia are planning yet, apart from, potentially on the Ukrainian border. Let's not go into the politics too much there, but up in space, this is a major threat. This is a major issue. And China obviously are responding to Starlink in that they're not going to want their 1 billion plus citizens using a US network with an unregulated kind of satellite communication internet link. I very much doubt you'll ever be able to, bar probably smuggle one in, but to get a Starlink satellite dish operational in China, it's just not going to happen. Even though Musk's whole pretense behind Starlink and the commercial model, there's been discussions of whether or not it's even going to succeed, because unless he gets Starship running, and the launch cadence on that's got to be pretty high, and he's going to be able to cram that thing. Don't forget, Starship can launch over 100 tons to orbit, so this is way, way, way bigger than the Falcons that are currently launching Starlinks at a rate of 50, 60 a go. He's going to have to be launching every week just to make Starlink commercially viable. Now, by commercially viable, what we're talking about here is a currently $499 dish and then a $99 per month subscription. Obviously, the prices are going to come down across the board because they always do. But the whole altruistic, oh, we're doing this for the benefit of humankind, is just a myth. When you've got half the planet, sub-Saharan Africa and various tracts of Asia and the South Pacific, etc., who barely scrape by on a few dollars a day. You only have to look at what's happened in Tonga recently, where SATCOMs was completely taken out. Satellite phones, communications by an undersea, volcano that kind of has wrought havoc in Tonga. And we're all praying that and hoping that the Tongan people are getting through this, because it's catastrophic. All of this plus these mega constellations, and the argument could be, well, if you've got optical based satellites, it's fantastic, and you can image all these disaster regions. Yes, but you don't need 80,000 of them. It's just insane.